The 85mm lens is really a classic portrait focal length. But in my use, things I've used it for most is pictures of couples, so whether that's engagement shoots or at weddings. So in this video, I'm going to show some pictures from some engagement shoots and tell you why I think it's a really good option for people that are shooting on a Nikon DSLR. I'd have to say that on Nikon, this has probably been my favourite lens. And the reason I say that is because it's captured most of my favourite images that I've shot on my D600. Before we go into the optics and the rendering from this lens, I think I'll tell you why I never bothered with the 85mm 1.4G. At the time when I bought the 1.8, I always thought that I was going to eventually upgrade to the 1.4. And there's no doubt that the 1.4 is the best lens. And I think that as photographers, we instinctively feel that as long as we've got the best that's possible, then we're safe. However, that's not necessarily always the case, because there are some inherent issues, I'm going to say dangers, but that's probably too strong a word. When you've got an 85mm 1.4, it's great for doing portraits, but as soon as you put more than one person into the picture, you'll often find yourself closing the lens down a little bit to maybe 1.8 or f2. That isn't to say that you can't take pictures of two people together wide open at 1.4. It's more that as I was taking photos with the lens, I just never wanted more of a shallow depth of field than I was already getting. I always felt that I loved the results I was getting from the 1.8. So because the results were so good for me, the motivation to spend that extra money on the 1.4 just never materialised like I thought it would. And so I stuck with the 85 1.8. And in a way I was glad that I did, because there's probably no need to spend money on something that you don't think you're going to need or don't really feel like you're missing. I think you'll probably agree that in the pictures that I'm showing you now, there is enough of a shallow depth of field. I'm not wanting more than that. When we're taking pictures of couples like this, we still want to have some context to the background. I don't think a more blurred background would necessarily help. In fact, in some instances, it might even go against you, because at least we still have a little bit of a context or an idea of where we are. I particularly like using this lens standing a bit further back so I can just show some context of the location. And moving into why I really love the 85mm 1.8, it creates very romantic and minimalist or simplified compositions where you can say, here's the couple and 2 or 3 elements in the background, and that's enough. So in some of these engagement photos, you see the couple, but you have the context of the beach and the waterline receding off into the background, and that lets you know where they are and what they're doing. You could shoot this on a wider lens as well, but I think the 85 is perfect for this because it's not introducing any clutter. It's a lens that simplifies everything that you do. I think this is giving a different look to, say, the 35, which is a lens that I use more, but the 85, with its simplification, is giving a look that people don't see so much. Especially nowadays, people have veered more towards shooting at the 35 and getting the wider angle because they want to show the location. There is definitely still something to be said from actually just taking a step back, using the compression of the 85 and showing a simplified version of the location, which is a lot easier for the viewer to grasp and understand. It has a more sort of restful and calming feeling about it. And in some ways, I think it also looks more, I don't want to say professional exactly, but I think it looks more like a photographer's shot. And when people are paying you, I think it can help to have this in the portfolio among the other pictures that you've taken. You see, a lot of people nowadays are taking photos on iPhones and so on, and people are getting used to seeing that focal range, which is something like 28mm or whatever. Now, I know that the phones now can take longer zoomed in pictures, but you're still not seeing a great deal of that. I think that this focal length, when it's done right, gives you that professional kind of look. It's good for people to see that. I think it has a big impact in your portfolio when you're working with it. And speaking of working with it, because this lens is relatively small and it's quite lightweight as well, it's very easy to have on one of your cameras all day long if you want to. And I find with a smaller kit that you become more adventurous with your compositions and your shots, and you start using it at different heights and different angles, not being burdened sometimes with a 70 to 200, which can, I think it can make you feel like you're more fixed, if that makes sense, whereas and you rely on the zoom, as people always say. I think that's definitely true. Whereas the 85, I think you're more likely to experiment and try things out, and you're looking for shots. Where can I go? Where can I stand? What can I see from that viewpoint? When I do engagement shoots, I just shoot them just on the 85. And the reason I do that is because I get a really high conversion rate from doing an engagement shoot to then booking an actual wedding. And I do it in that order because when they've worked with you and they've seen the pictures, it's like trying before you buy. So you can tell someone an engagement shoot, and then off the back of that, they get to experience what your photos are like. And when they see this, I think the 85mm focal length specifically just gives you that pro kind of look, and then they just go, yep, that's what we're after, and then they book. What's the qualities of the lens? What's it good at? What's it bad at? I would say this is a sharp lens. It's a reasonably sharp lens. It's not super sharp like maybe the Sigmas are, for example, but I think that helps. We don't necessarily want to have to do a lot of skin editing, especially if you're going to batch edit your stuff in Lightroom. You don't really want to have a lot of skin editing to do. You want to get through things at a reasonable speed. I think it's more than sharp enough for anything that you'll probably want to do with it. It does suffer from quite a bit of chromatic aberration. It's cleaned up easily in Lightroom, and I wouldn't worry about it, but it does have a reasonable amount of chromatic aberration. Quality of the outer focus elements of the picture is decent. I've always been very happy with the pictures that I've got back. All of the pictures that you're seeing here are edited with my wedding photography presets, which are available in the link in the description. I've always really liked Nikon's 1.8 prime set. I wish that Canon had paid as much attention to that range that Nikon did, because I think they put in a decent effort to give you like a sort of a medium quality, medium priced lens that could do professional work. But now in 2022, if you're looking to buy this lens, it's cheap. Get a decent quality used one. Maybe you can still pick up a new one somewhere. It's one of my favorite lenses that I've ever used because I'm always so happy with the results that I get. I feel like it's one of those lenses that brings the magic. It brings that extra bit that you're always looking for in your work. But it does it in such a way that's not for pixel peepers. It's very much for the people that are looking at the aesthetics of how an image renders and how it kind of comes out in the end. It will up your game. If you don't have anything that's an equivalent or similar, I think it will up your game significantly. And in terms of being sort of a working professional, when it comes to doing anything wedding related, this lens for me has always been my kind of secret weapon as a lens, if you can call it that. It's been my secret weapon of a lens, really, because of all the stuff I discussed before about the kind of look it gives you. Plus, there's another factor with this. I just find myself having an awful lot of fun when I'm shooting with it. I think it's partly the size and the weight of it, and partly knowing that it didn't cost me a fortune to buy in the first place, and then I'm getting these great results because I know that I'm going to like the results that I get with it. I'm always having fun when I'm shooting with it. It even to this day will still surprise me and make me think how good this thing is, considering I paid so little comparatively to these kind of lenses for it. If this video was useful, please give me a thumbs up because it helps me out. Subscribe if you're new here, and leave me a comment if you've got any questions, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.